Hey, what's up guys? You could Gypsy back here today for CPC playoffs, going up against a good friend of mine, Aberforth, in round 1 of the playoffs. And yeah, this should be a pretty hype match. Abe and I always manage to get paired up for either playoff round 1 or semi-finals in most of the leagues we participate in. So yep, in keeping with the tradition, we are facing off against Abe. And yeah, Aberforth is a very aggressive player. For anyone who doesn't know him very well, he's one of the guys from the MPL, so he's definitely like a top caliber player in the CPC, and he is in terms of like raw battling skill, he'll be the first to admit his building and drafting is like, you know, maybe not as good as some people's, but his battling skill is certainly up in the top, easily in the top 5 if not higher in my opinion. So Abe is yeah, always a fun person to face, and he's super aggressive. So with the team he has, that's something you definitely have to keep in mind when facing off against Abe. He's got a very threatening team with stuff like Terrakion, Mega Tyranitar, the Z Victini, Superior, which is a massive threat, Comfy Omastar, so he has like a ton of hazard support. And then he's got some crazy breakers and potential scarfers with Terrakion, Tyranitar. You know, Victini's really got some really versatile options. He also had Zygarde 10%, so he had some nice speed on his team, some nice speed tiers he's hitting, along with Swellow, which is a pretty massive threat to my team. Spec Swellow is a bit of a pain for any team to switch into, and I'm not running Spadef Selly, so I don't switch into it too well, so that's definitely a big threat. But it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to run over the team that I have decided to bring this week. So first up we have a Citrus Berry, bulky special, autonomized Celesteela. I've got Flash Cannon, Air Slash, and Energy Ball for this matchup. He had a Rotom Wash in his team, which was actually pretty solid in terms of being a check to stuff like Celesteela. Even Zard, it could have been like T-Wave Rotom, so that was definitely something I was potentially expecting. And the nice thing about Zard and Selly in this matchup is that they serve to weaken one another's shared checks, so in case he did bring Rotom, Zard can weaken it for Selly's Energy Ball to take it out later on in the match. But once this thing gets an auto up, I can basically put in work with it, because if you look at the team he's brought today, like Serp is weak to Air Slash, Victini needs some chip and hopefully to be poisoned, Tyranitar doesn't appreciate Flash Cannons, Swallow dies to Flash Cannon after Rocks guaranteed, Omastar takes an Energy Ball, and Comfy has to take a Flash Cannon. So Selly is yeah, he's very nice in this matchup indeed. Citrus Berry gives me some longevity this game. It allows me to live stuff like 2 close combats from Terrakion after Rocks, from a Scarf Terrak. Also allows me to live stuff like 2 Heat Waves from Swellow easily. Obviously I still tank Boom Burst. I am really bulky, so I tank those quite well. Then we've got Laddie here. So Laddie is actually a Scarf variant this week. Pretty nice for the late game. It allows me to have a pretty safe revenge for stuff like a Superior that's getting a bit out of control. It also helps me versus Scarf Terrak, which is a mon that I really thought he would bring, because it gives him a check to +1 Zard. And unless he's got like a scarfed Superior with Dragon Pulse, which won't even do much to bulky Zard, or like a scarfed Boom Burst Swellow or something, I think he's going to struggle to take on a +1 Zard. That's just my thoughts at matchup. But yeah, basically this Scarf Laddie, it can put in the work late game. Obviously I'm going to want Tyranitar whittled. I do have Surf on this set, but T-Tar is so fat, Mega T-Tar, that it like it chews up Surfs. But Psychic is a nice late game win con if I can get Victini low and the Tyranitar like out of the picture. Psychic is just really solid in the late game. Comfy is another mon as well that could stand in the way of Laddie, so I might have to get that thing toxic, or at least get some hazard chip up on it before I can start clicking Psychic. Then we have a defensive crook, a defensive Tropical Crook here to check the likes of Terrakion, Zygarde, and this Tyranitar essentially. Nothing too crazy about this set. It's just very reliable in this match. Obviously it provides switch-ins to Superior, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I've got a mon later on that can actually take care of a sub-seed Superior. So then we have my Gren here. Now this Gren is like it's just a lead Gren in this matchup. Just like Sash dual spikes with Ice Beam for SERP in case I really need to fire off an Ice Beam. Versus a sub-SERP that I think could be a bit of a pain. It also gets the outspeed on Zygarde 10%, and I can just knock him out with Ice Beam there. So then we have my Zard. It's a fairly bulky Zard, like a fairly bulky Dragon Dance Fire Punch Brick Break Zard. Can really do work this game. Like if you look at his team, the only thing that resists it is Victini, and if I can get T-Spikes up, Victini is just going to be set up on by Zard, and like I can roost on it. Zard's a very nice win con in this game. Either a win con or just a hole puncher for Selly to put in the work late game. So then the last one we have here is Mesprit. Now this is a pretty defensive like spit F, like mixed F Mesprit with red card, U-turn, rocks, energy ball and healing wish. So basically the concept behind this Mesprit is that Subseed SERP is a pain, and if it finds itself getting a free switch in on Crook, for example, once T-Tar goes down, or something like my Celesteela or my Gren or something like that, if SERP finds its way in after one of his team is downed, say for instance like Laddie clicks Surf to take out Victini or Tyranitar and SERP gets a free switch in, I can always bring my my Mesprit in on the SERP as it goes for Subseed. Now Subseed is basically SERP's best way of invalidating Celesteela as a check. So if I do bring like a Spit F Celesteela, which makes sense at matchup, just looking at his team, like Spit F or just like mixed F Silly Walls, or like checks a decent chunk of his team. So if I were to bring that as a SERP check, which would be able to check reasonably well an offensive SERP set, Subseed actually invalidates that by just being faster naturally, being able to sub up and get all that health back that you're losing from your subs due to Leech Seed and due to Selly's naturally high HP. So that set can be a real pain for this team to deal with, and that's why I added red card Mesprit on, so I can basically switch in once, get up my rocks as he subs, proceed to U-turn out on his Leaf Storm, or if he clicks Leaf Storm, he gets red carded out even if he's behind a sub. I then U-turn on whatever he brings in and I grab momentum that way. Alternatively, he may opt to sub and then seed me as I get up my rocks, and yeah, basically like Mesprit either breaks the sub and goes out into a faster threat like Laddie, who can take it out with Ice Beam once it's whittled, or Selly that can take it out with Air Slash, or Gren or Zard really, or alternatively it shuffles it out and I get U-turn momentum on something else. So it is a one-time sort of disruptor to SERP, but honestly that's all I need. I just need to disrupt a sub SERP one time for the rest of my team to put in work. And keep in mind, I'm planning on having T-Spikes up as early as possible, so SERP will be getting whittled each turn. It'll be taking hazard damage. I am planning on stacking versus Abe, so that's genuinely the idea with Mesprit. Healing Wish is also really important for stuff like Zard, Laddie and Selly in the late game. So we're going to jump into it. I am going to lead off with Gren. That is my lead of choice, as he does choose to lead off with his Comfy here. Now, this is an interesting lead on Abe's part. He may have expected me to lead with Crook, trying to get up rocks early, because rocks do threaten like pretty important offensive mons in his team. And if he expected me to lead with Crook to beat like a Tyranitar rocks lead, or even an Omastar lead if I'm really feeling wild, Comfy was a solid lead, but this thing, for all I know, could have Taunt or Magic Coat, and that is definitely like a really good bring if he does have it. But even if he reflects my T-Spikes back up onto my side of the field, I'm not really too affected by them. The only mon that is really affected by them is Crook, and Crook has enough bulk to be able to check Tyranitar alone. The fact that he hasn't brought Tyrak or Zygarde means that Crocodile's job is solely focused on Tyranitar, and far less pressured as a result. It doesn't have to check 2 or 3 mons, it can just check Tyranitar. So me being poisoned by T-Spikes on my side isn't the end of the world. It's not really a big deal. So Zard obviously would get poisoned if I'd Mega'd, but I plan on setting up with Zard when the time is right, not having to switch out. And if I do have to switch out and it gets poisoned, I always have Healing Wish in the back. So I am going to just go for the T-Spike here, as he does reveal the Magic Code. So really nice prep on Abe's part. Like I mentioned, it's not like, it doesn't bother me too much. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely very nice prep. And had I gone for normal spikes there, that would have been a bit annoying, because my Zard and Crook would have been taking that 12 every time they came in. But again, like, I have so many levitating or flying members, it's not like, spikes aren't the biggest deal for me to deal with. Rocks are far more irritating for my team. So I am going to set up a T-Spike here as he does go for the Draining Kiss, and right here I'm just going to Ice Beam. Now I strongly felt like he would U-turn potentially if he had it there, expecting me to go out into my Selly on his Draining Kiss, or even my Zard. My Zard would be a pretty solid switch into this. Leech Seed was definitely a play on his part, but obviously he could just be Draining Kiss, Magic Coat, Calm Mind or something like that. I haven't scouted his set yet, and Calm Mind is very nice on paper versus me, especially if you have Serp to wear down this Celesteela with Subseed. So I'm gonna go for Ice Beam here. On the off chance that he switched out to Victini, I got damage, or something like he probably would have gone Serp there on like the Hydra or something, but Ice Beam covered that. But he does get frozen here, but it's okay. He thaws first. He thaws like literally as I freeze him, so that's fantastic for him, because a freeze would have just been such a dumb way to like start this game. So he is going to leech me here, and this turn I am going to make the switch out into my Celesteela as he just goes for Magic Coat. Now I deliberated on this turn for a while. I very much contemplated spiking there, as I knew I could live another Dazzling Gleam, another Draining Kiss, sorry, from that range of health. And it was in his interest to go for the Magic Coat, because if I did have Taunt, which makes sense versus a team like Abe's with potential for like stacking Omastar lead, Taunt would shut down his ability to leech spam my team, and if he's taunted, stuff like Selly and Zard get a free switch in. So Magic Coat I felt was his best play there, so I'm going to capitalize on Abe making his best play possible, go into my Celesteela, and right now I can just click Flash Cannon. Now he's going to miss a Leech Seed here, which is definitely unfortunate, because this thing, if it had the leech recovery past the lefties, it would have been able to probably, I want to say, take. He's at 41, so he probably would have recovered, like, because Comfy's got low HP, he could well have recovered up to 65. I don't know if he would have recovered 24%. I'm not too sure on that, but he would have been pretty high. So that was pretty unfortunate. But Abe and I were talking about this after the game. Had he got the leech off there, he just would have went straight to Victini this turn. So Comfy would have remained low, which is important for later, but it would have allowed his Victini to come in safely, as you're going to see soon. So I'm going to go for the Flash Cannon here, and I get 71%. So these are some big rolls. Like the first turn I got, the first Flash Cannon I did 65, the second time I did 70. So like I said, even if he had got the leech there, his Comfy could well have died that turn if he'd stayed in. So I think chances are that Abe probably would have gone to Victini, not wanting to risk Comfy, but either way, this turn he is actually going to switch out into Victini as I get the Flash Cannon damage off, and this is nice. Like, I'm whittling down one of the checks to Dragon Dance Charizard, because I am like Fire Punch, like Brick Break. I'm kind of walled by Teeny, but the fact that it's now poisoned, it's taken some chip. If I get at rocks, it's going to be taking 25. It means that this thing is less of a check, and it's also one of Laddie's Psychic resists standing in the way of that thing just spamming Psychic and winning. So the fact that this is getting whittled is nice. So this turn I am going to switch out. I'm going to go out into my Greninja here, as he is just going to go for the U-turn, not knock me out, but the poison damage will be able to knock me out as he does go out into his Swellow here. Now the fact that he went out into Swellow signaled to me that he was either Specs Boomburst, or he was like Specs Defog or Silk Scarf Defog, some sort of offensive Swellow that wanted to just get the T-Spikes out of here, because Serp does not appreciate T-Spikes, and that kind of further backed up my suspicions that this is probably Subseed Serp, his willingness to defog early. Subseed Serp obviously doesn't appreciate being toxic. It really reduces that thing's ability to be a check to stuff like Celesteela. So removing T-Spikes is in his interest, especially now that my T-Spiker is down. But the fact that I have Poison Teeny is really, really nice. Like the fact that I've poisoned that, ideally I'd like Comfy and Tyranitar to all be poisoned, of course, but I'm willing to take the trade of setting up one DD here if I'm certain that Swellow will go for the defog here. If he is Specs, I live one Boom Burst and I can proceed to Dragon Dance up and knock him out in the next turn. But he does actually just fire for defog here, so that's interesting. He's going to defog here. Like I mentioned, this kind of confirmed my suspicions of his Serp set, and that's pretty nice. Like, because I have the Mesprit in the back, I'm not too worried about a Subseed Serp, but it is important to know that that's probably what his set is. So that it actually plays out more in my favor if he is Subseed rather than offensive, because then Mesprit has a bit more like comfortable of a time switching in and clicking U-turn. So he's going to go for the defog here. Now he's either choice locked into specs, or he's like a boosting item like Silk Scarf, or even like Expert Belt or something. So I know I can live a boom burst here, so I'm just going to Dragon Dance one more time after this. Reason being, I need another Dragon Dance to guarantee kill a max Fizdef Tyranitar, as well as an Omastar from full. I don't want to have to rely on rolls. Like a +1 Zard is like 88 to 101, so at a +1, so I wanted to get the +2 to ensure that it killed Omastar, as this turn he is going to fire off a Boom Burst. As he gets like a max roll there. It was something like 54 to 63, so he got a very, very high roll. Obviously, not going to complain about rolls, but it is interesting. Zard, sometimes took that hit better, so he's now going to switch out into his comfy here as I just knock him out with a Brick Break. So I am at +2/+2, and now his team is looking kind of threatened by this Zard. T-Tar dies, Serp obviously dies, Omastar dies. Nothing on his team really wants to take a hit from this Zard, so he is going to switch out to Victini here, and I felt like this thing would either be Toxic or Thunderwave, but that's okay because I can roost up on this thing and start applying pressure, just start firing off hits after this turn. So I am going to go for the Fire Punch, I believe, this turn. I could have gone for the Brick Break. Brick Break was like free in the sense that it caught a T-Tar if he wanted to switch in, but I really didn't think he would make that play, because like I guess if I had like Flare Blitz, I could have gone for that here, but then I'd just be whittling myself down. If I was Brick Break Dragon Claw, which wouldn't make much sense, and his T-Tar switched in to take a Dragon Claw, the sand would have been able to whittle me down. But had I gone for the Brick Break here, he just lost his T-Tar, so pretty risky, you're going to see. But Abe does make the switch into his Tyranitar, as I am just going to click Fire Punch, and that does a ton to this T-Tar, revealing that he's pretty defensive. Because I'm at +2 with Tough Claws, as he's now going to switch back out into his Victini. I'm just going to hit him with the Brick Break. He's now low, and this is really important. This is what I was saying earlier about Selly and Laddie. So two of his biggest responses to Laddie and Celesteela in Victini and Tyranitar are in a pretty bad spot. T-Tar's being whittled. If I get Rocks Up, or if I get like one hit off on T-Tar, it's in range of Flash Cannon. This thing is dead to anything from my Celesteela once I get an Autonomize up. So this is important. I am just going to roost up this turn, as Victini will die to the combination of Sand plus Poison. So he's going to U-turn out, and my Zard is pretty healthy. He's going to go out to his Swallow here, and this turn I believe I do just click the Brick Break as he sacks off his Victini. I could have gone for the Roost there, but obviously, like, if Abe wanted to make a really aggressive play, which is what he's known for, he could have Boom Bursted there expecting my Roost on his predicted Victini sack, so wasn't worth it there. I know Zard will live another day, and I can always heal him back up with Mesprit if I really see the urge to. So he's going to bring in Serp here. Now everything that stands in the way of Celesteela is dead. Literally his whole team just loses to Sally now. So this is really important, but obviously this Superior, if it is Subseed, could be a problem. I feel as though he's gonna sack something off here. He's gonna bait the Fire Punch and like go out into Omastar and sack it off. The nice thing is, if he does go for the Leaf Storm here, or he's not going to risk his Serp, but if he banks on me clicking Brick Break, which Serp can definitely take at +2, he may sub up if he's like a bulkier variant, and be behind a sub in front of like whatever I bring in. So if I bring in like Celesteela, he's already got a sub up, he can just start leeching me. So in that instance, I would just go into Mesprit and click Rocks or U-turn as he started to subseed me, and then get momentum out into my Celesteela. So I feel like he's either going to stay in here and make a wild prediction with Superior, or he's going to go to Omastar. Either way, clicking Brick Break is my play, because I potentially put Serp at a range of health where I can't sub, and I also, if anything, just get damage off on this Serp, and I kill another one with Brick Break. So he's going to sack off Omastar here. I don't have a need to like Healing Wish Zard up now, because it doesn't really set up on anything bar this Swallow. Superior always has the opportunity of subseeding my Zard if I try and set up in its face. That's not worth it in that sense. I can't set up on T-Tar, although I do kill it with a Brick Break from the range of health it was at. And Swallow I can set up on, but I already have a Sally in the back, so I don't really need to worry about Healing Wishing it up. So here I am just going to bring out my Celesteela here. It matched up best versus anything you wanted to bring out. If you wanted to bring out Serp, I autonomized up. If you wanted to bring out T-Tar, I always had Crook in the back to switch into and get up rocks on it. But he does bring the Superior here, and now I will just be able to fire off an Air Slash as he does go for the Leech Seed, and that does 91. That does a ton to this Serb, so I am going to switch out here, going to go out into my Mesprit as he does sub up, and this is perfect. Like, this turn I am going to Rocks because I do fully expect him to go for the Seed here. He's behind a sub. I expect him to go for the Leech Seed, and if he goes for Leech Seed this turn, next turn he can go for the Leaf Storm. As I U-turn out, he'll be phased out. I'll get momentum, whatever he wants to bring in. So I'm going to go for my Rocks here as he fires off a Leech Seed. He misses his Leech Seed, and from his perspective at this stage in the game, that Leech Seed miss could have been absolutely massive. So I tell him, you know, Leech again, I'll go for Rocks because I know my Mesprit could have got out of that situation and would have just phased him out the following turn when he clicks the inevitable Leaf Storm anyway. So I just tell him to go for another Leech, because obviously Leech misses like that are really dumb in games like this. So I go for Rocks again as he does get up his Leech. Now I want him to click Leaf Storm here, and I know he's probably going to, so I'm just going to click U-turn here. He's actually going to miss Leaf Storm, which is really dumb. Obviously he didn't know that I was red card at this stage. I revealed it to be later on in the game red card, but that was kind of annoying. He did miss Leaf Storm, as I will now be able to go into my Celesteela and just click Air Slash this turn as Tyranitar does come out. And I don't want to play any games with this thing. I do just decide to go out into my Crocodile, as I believe he does just go for the Crunch or the Stone Edge this turn. So there wasn't any point risking Selly at that stage in the game. If this T-Tar was really low, I would have risked Selly potentially, because Scarfed Ice Beam from Latios cleaned up the game. But the fact that this T-Tar is still well and truly out of range of Scarfed Ice Beam means that risking Celesteela there wasn't the play. So I'm going to go into my Crook. He is going to go into his Swellow this turn as I do click Low Kick. And now I think I do just stay in here and click Knock Off as he goes for the Heat Wave. So I would have obviously lived a Heat Wave on max HP Crook. But again, like, he could have, even if he Boon Bursted there, I just went out into Celesteela and set up and won the game. If he hit Heat Wave there and I knock him out this turn, I'm weakened, Serp comes in, and I just go right out into Mesprit for him to activate the red card, but he misses the Heat Wave there, as I'm just going to knock him out with the knockoff there. So now he's going to bring in his Serp, and the sub-seed shenanigans will begin again. So he's going to Leaf Storm this turn. Actually, I get that wrong. He's going to Leaf Storm that turn, not wanting to play any games, as I do reveal my red card tech as he's now switched out into this T-Tar. So I'm going to U-turn here. I'm going to go out into I U-turn. I think I went out into Crook that turn, wanting to get the Intimidate drop off in this T-Tar for Selly to set up with even easier. Keep in mind I am Citrus Berry, so even if he did get a big Stone Edge off, I would actually live a crit. Even like I would live a crit from full, and it would activate my Citrus Berry. I would then win like that, but he does choose to Pursuit there and take out my Mesprit, lowering differential a bit. This turn I am just going to Autonomize up, as he's going to go for the Dragon Tail. So nice prep by Abe. This was a really bulky Rocks Dragon Tail Tyranitar. Very cool to see. Pursuit, so probably more than likely like a Spadef variant or something like that. He knows I've got really solid setup potential on my team, so packing that was a really good call. So he's now going to bring in my Crook. I'm just going to switch back out into Celesteela. I know I can take a Stone Edge if he wants to go for it and proc my Citrus, and I don't want him to allow him to switch into Celesteela to his Superior for free. So I'm just going to go back out into my Selly, as he does Dragon Tail me out to Laddie, but that's okay. Laddie is now in the driver's seat to just click Ice Beam, because now this T-Tar's in range, Sand is down, and Serp is going to drop to an Ice Beam. So that's going to be my playoffs match versus Abe. I had a few ways of winning that endgame, potentially with Selly, but Abe's Dragon Tail prep really prevented that, so that was cool to see. Basically, once T-Tar was in range of Ice Beam, it was kind of over at that point. He lost his Ice Beam resistant Victini, as well as Omastar. So once T-Tar was whittled, it was pretty much game with Laddie or Celesteela. So that's going to be my game versus Abe. Definitely a fun one. Like, I really enjoyed this game. It was a lot of fun. I'd say the Leech miss early game. We discussed it after the game. The Leech miss early meant that Victini couldn't come in and be at full. Obviously, it would have been poisoned, but had I clicked Flash Cannon there, he would have recovered the damage he took from Flash Cannon back with the Leech Seed. He still would have been at about, like, assuming he went to full from the Leech Seed recovery, he still would have been at 88 after taking the 12% from poison, so he still would have been pretty whittled. I don't really think it would have helped him versus the Zard in the long run, because Victini was kind of losing to Zard. He ended up sacking an 8% Victini off to Azard's Brick Break that turn where he switched out from Serp. So Victini would have died there anyway, so I'm not really sure how it would have impacted the game. Perhaps he would have played his Victini a bit differently, but honestly, once Zard set up, as Abe told me after the game, it was really difficult for him to approach that without whittling Victini in the process, because he had to fire off a Toxic as his only means of really taking it down. So that's going to be a long explanation there, but definitely a fun game, first round of playoffs. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments of the game, and I'll catch you guys next time.